Hi, I'm Somer Hackley,
Hi, I'm Zen Mac. This is the Art of Search Hiring Manager series.
and these are stories and insights about all things hiring. Well, Zen, it is so great to see you again this week. Thank you
Great
for
to see
joining
you.
me. Yes, as always. So, I would love to introduce you to today's guest, Kevin Ertell. So, Kevin and I got to know each other pretty recently, and I'll tell you, he's one of these people where we just hit it off, and I just knew that he was someone I wanted to stay in touch with. And then we just started running ideas by each other, and he posted about my book on LinkedIn. And it wasn't that, oh, you posted about my book on LinkedIn, so you're my favorite person. No, it was he posted about the book, and then you could just see his network. Just everyone was like, Kevin's the best. Kevin loves to, such a it's true. It's true. Like, go read the comments. I was like, get out of here. Kevin's the best. Like, people, you can't pay people for this. So, and I,
You'd
I
be
really liked
surprised.
it's, yeah, right? I know. How much did you have to spend on that? But it was really cool to see. And it was just clear to me that he's someone that really likes to give and give back and all that good stuff, and that people think so highly of him. So, in terms of background, Kevin has 30 years of experience maximizing revenue and profitability through leadership and omni-channel transformations. He's worked at major B2C brands, overseeing retail operations, digital operations, and innovation in VP, SVP, and GM roles. He's widely considered a retail innovator. Kevin just launched his consulting business, Mistere Advisory. Kevin, it is so great to see you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So nice to meet you, Kevin. Well,
Great to
as
meet
the
you too.
as the title tells us, we're going to talk about hiring. So maybe for starters, you've been hiring people for a very long time. How have you developed your hiring philosophy over the years? Like, what kind of lessons could you share with us that you've learned?
Yeah, I had an incident early on that didn't feel fortuitous at the time, but I think ultimately was. And it's when I was originally hiring or managing managers, and I had various teams on my team, and one of the teams was not doing too well. They weren't performing well. Morale was really bad. Just everything was off, and uh, ended up needing to let go of the manager there. But rather than just jump right into hiring, I decided, given all those sort of morale issues, I should ask the team, what are you looking for in a manager?
Hmm.
And what was really interesting that came back is I got lots of stuff back from them around, we want someone who's going to develop us, who's going to be a great communicator, who's going to be strategic. Basically, they didn't tell me about things that were functional in their area. They were talking about leadership, and they were
Hmm.
looking for a leader, really. And so I thought, well, this is great information. This is super helpful to have. Let me also ask the peers, because I knew there were sort of issues all around. And again, what I got back from the peers was not that they wanted someone in that role who was a functional expert. They wanted someone who was going to be collaborative. They used some
Hmm.
of the same words, but also, respectful with them and those sort of things.
Hmm.
And so I went and took all of that and put together interview questions that were more focused on what the attributes that they told me they wanted. And we ended up hiring a great leader, and he came in and completely changed the whole dynamic of the team.
Hmm.
Um, because they already had the functional expertise. That's not what the team needed. The team needed a leader to complement what they had. And that I started to really sort of use that practice ongoing ever since then, which was always to really focus and ask the team, ask the peers around them, what does the team need to get better? And always with that focus that I'm going to hire someone not just to do a role, but to complement and complete a team to make the team more high performing. And that's been my approach ever since.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story in such an such a great way to integrate what the team needed as part of the job description, as part of the candidate dossier, if you want to use that term, to really go after the right person to gel the team together. And oftentimes what I see is it's a one-sided conversation. It's the leader dictating what the next role should look
Mhm.
like and kind of off it went, right? So thank you for sharing that counterpoint to why
I
this
was
is
that
very
person
useful.
before that situation happened, but I learned early on, luckily.
share more about your hiring philosophies now? Clearly, you've changed from one person to the next, but what matters to you now when you
Yeah.
hire? And what do you assess for when you're trying to get that team click that you just kind of talked about?
A couple of the things I've learned over the years, just always asking those questions, gathering that feedback, is there's been some commonality. And I sort of think of them as the three C's.
Mm,
I focused on character, critical thinking, and chemistry. Those are the areas I'm focused. Experience matters in a particular area, but not to the same degree as those, is what I found. I found those three to be far more predictive of success in the role. So if I dig into those a little bit, when I'm talking about character, I'm really talking about, ethical foundation, what drives how people think and their guiding principles through life. And there I'm sort of looking for sure for things like integrity and a confident humility and positivity, that sort of thing. I want to know about relationships. How do they think about relationships? How do they like to treat others? And how do they like to be treated in relationships? Um, I'm generally looking for people who are kind of respectful and supportive and considerate, empathetic of others. I find that that makes them a much better team player. And then probably the third thing in character that I like to look at is just their approach to challenges. I don't think there's always a right or wrong answer to that, but when you're faced with a challenge, what's your approach to it? Are you someone who, does lots of research across all sorts of angles? Are you someone who likes to start to solve and adjust along the way? There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer there, but I want to assess that in context with the other people on the team to see if we have something that is complementary, in terms of how that works. The second C then is critical thinking.
mm,
And for me, critical thinking is pretty important in how we're going to go about getting stuff done. Here, I really just want to understand how people think about problems, how they assess things, um, how they problem solve. Again, not necessarily a right or wrong answer, but how is that going to be complementary to what other people on the team do, and how do they think about things?
mhm,
And then chemistry. That's always that famous sort of thing. It's not really an exact science, but people talk about it in terms of sports teams or what have you. What's the chemistry?
mhm,
Somewhat a little bit of art and science on that one, I think. But a couple of things that I'm always focused on is diversity. And
mm,
here I'm talking about diversity in all sorts of ways. We're talking about gender or race, background, personality, culture people come from, anything to understand that what I found anyways is that when you really get a lot of different perspectives and backgrounds and life experiences together, I think that it helps with better decision making, better problem solving, better communication. It also really helps with innovation. I mean, I think you
mm,
get the best innovation when you have this diverse group of people who really are looking at a problem from lots of different ways. It helps you uncover blind spots too. Like if you have a lot
mm,
of people that think the same way, then they miss a lot of stuff. So you want diversity so that you get a lot of variety. The one area that I do not want diversity, though, is alignment to values of the
mm.
team and the company. So
Yeah.
there, I think it's really strong to be focused on, is this person a fit in terms of what they value in life and what they value in work and how they value working together. That I find has to really be tight. And then I want to
Yeah.
look at other things like collaboration. How are they in terms of teamwork? How do they work together um, with others? What's their experience there? And I pay a lot of attention to communication because I find that how people communicate, and here I'm actually talking about listening and speaking, goes a long way to understanding if they're going to be able to work together effectively by how they listen to understand, how they communicate to speak to help people um, work together, get on the same page more quickly. So those are some of the big things I've found. I think if we can nail the three C's, then experience matters for sure. You got to have some functional experience, but I find that often that can be a little bit misleading when somebody says, we need 10 years of experience in this specific area, what have you. Sometimes that's actually a negative, where people are a little too tied into what all the way we've always done things in this particular area and don't see new ways and do new ways of innovation. So I have a little bit of a balance in terms of experience.
Thank you for that. That really struck me as well, because you're absolutely right. Just looking at pure years of experience without looking at the three C's that you were talking about kind of leads you down a road of confirmation bias. You bring in somebody
Hmm.
with the experience you think you need, and you're really not paying attention to the team dynamics, especially at a leadership type of hire. But the other thing that I often find, and I'll kind of throw this in there as well, is if the person has 10 out of 10 of the skills that you're looking for, done the exact thing that you need them to do, what, why would they be here? Why would they engage with you in that job in the first place? And then never mind all the other three C's that need to be on the level, right? Because their collaboration is there, their character may be there, their alignment to values may be partly because it's a role that they've occupied in the past. So I just wanted to throw that in there as another thing that adds to the hiring challenge.
I love that. I think that's a really great perspective and a really great point. Yep.
Yeah, and I would add that what really struck me is your focus on the team before kicking off a search. And I find it so easy to think of these roles in a vacuum. And even as a recruiter, when we sit down or Zoom with the hiring manager or people leader and talk about the role, if it's just about the role and not about the team and where the role fits into the team, it's just like throwing darts, and
Yeah.
and I even started more recently when I pitch the role to candidates, I'll talk about the team and like, here's how things are working today and here where people's strengths are. And so they're really solving for this. And people will self-select out real quick. They're like, oh, well, I'm
Hmm.
not too, so you don't need me, who you need someone else I know. And it's
Yeah.
pretty awesome just to think of it in that whole ecosystem versus just a role. So I love that.
I think it's really important. I kind of equate it to like a sports team. If you're the general manager of a sports team, you can't have all the players have the same skills. That's
Mhm.
you need people to be complementary to work together. That's how win the championship. So
Mm-hmm. 100%. Well, this is great. So thank you, Kevin. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. I'm sure people are writing down the three C's as we speak. And yeah, it was really great having you here today. So thanks again for joining us.
thank you. And sorry for all the dogs barking in the background. If you
Didn't
heard
hear him. Great
that.
microphone.